Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
Looks like 7 o'clock, so I'll call the meeting to order. This is the Village of Saxtons River meeting of the Board of Trustees, December 5th, 2022 at 7 p.m. It is a meeting happening by remote location on Zoom only. And the usual protocols, if anybody has a need for tech help, call or text 802-376-4639. The meeting has been called to order. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? All right, hearing none, we're ready for any public comment. And still none. On to the Athens fire contract. We do have the possibility of going into executive session if people would like to do that. We could do that now or at some other time. And I've just dropped my pen, which leaves me unable to think. It's okay, I have a pencil.
I know the feeling, Amy.
Athens fire contract. I have nothing to report, absolutely nothing.
That's muted. We can't hear him talking, but his mouth was moving.
Good evening.
Hey, Matt.
Is that better?
Yep, much better.
I would say we don't need executive session if there's nothing to report. Unless you feel as though we have something to discuss about it.
Well, I'm a little concerned that we have heard nothing. I had one message from a member of their select board before the last meeting saying they would not attend. Sandy Caponcelli just wrote me informally by email to say she would not be coming to our meeting.
Do we compose the letter letting them know that we're not going to renew the contract next year?
Maybe in terms of, we assume that they are not interested since we haven't heard from them.
Well, I don't know if I would terminate it. I would maybe just a letter to ask what
We've done that, Matt. We've been very clear. We visited, we presented, we made what I thought was an agreement for them to come to our meeting. I would say the ball is in their court unless we want to take action. And I don't feel like negotiating is the action that's appropriate for the moment, but I'm one voice.
I agree. So we're just going to have to leave it.
Well, Rick, you were suggesting a letter.
Well, I mean, if we want to we've been trying to renegotiate something, and I think that we don't want to start next year with the same contract, and we don't want the same contract and agreement that we have to renew. So I'm not saying that I guess my suggestion is we let them know that the current contract we're not going to renew, and if they would like to further discussion about to continue to renegotiate for a new contract for next year, to let us know.
We would need to know that. Well, we need to get something in place before the first of the year, right?
I don't know what the time dates are on the contract I don't remember. I thought it was some weird like April or something.
We let them know. We let them know in the fall what our new rates are. And why don't I go and get the agreement? I should have done this beforehand, but give me a moment. I think I can find it right away.
Okay.
Anybody get to go downtown last night?
Yeah,
Oh, it was so wonderful.
Okay. I have the folder. Do I have the actual contract?
So I guess I would leave any monetary amounts out of discussion.
This agreement is somewhat lengthy. So we've been joined by two people, as well as Fact TV. Could you identify yourselves? Oh, Art, I didn't recognize you. It's good to see you.
Art
Okay.
Smith, Chief,
I
Saxtons
see-
Fire
I see in the corner this little Art.
Who's that?
You're always smiling when I see you, and I saw this, forceful exterior. And
Oh,
Scott,
sorry.
are you listening as well? Looks
Hi,
like
Amy.
it. Scott picked
Yes,
up.
I'm also here. How are you?
Okay, great. So what's the sense of the group? Do we want a special meeting to discuss this? It sounds like there is some discussion of sending a letter, just confirming that.
I mean, if, I think that we need to communicate with them something and let,
Yeah,
ask you that.
isn't there an
Hmm.
automatic renewal provision somewhere in that agreement?
And bathroom.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to avoid is the automatic renewal.
right.
That's why I was saying that the current
Yeah.
contract, that we're not renewing the current contract, that we're still willing and to negotiate and come up with a new contract, but that we're not gonna renew the old one.
I think that's a good idea.
All right, I'd like
Likely to find ourselves with a contract that we don't particularly want.
okay, I'd like a placeholder for a meeting 2 weeks from now, if you're willing, just so we can revisit this in December before we get to January. What's your feeling on that? I know we moved to one meeting a month and I've been enjoying
fine.
that.
That's fine.
That's okay?
Yeah. It would probably would be good to if Art could be part of that too, if he's able to zoom in.
It would be great, Art, and we should ask you if you have comments on this. Perhaps you've been involved in a discussion that, we often our little select board, the little trustee tower have missed completely.
Oh, is this the Athens contract?
That's what
Yeah.
we're discussing.
Yeah, I came in late on that. Is it, no, we've just been providing the service and there's no, I can't say one way or the other. Yeah, it sounds to me like they've been getting a good deal for quite a few years from what I've heard right along.
Yeah,
So,
Right, and was it last year we tried to, we upped the amount. Not
we
a
upped the
huge-
amount, but we were late to the table. We should have reached out as we did this year in
Right.
the early fall.
earlier,
And they said, we
yeah.
can't do anything.
Yeah, I think they have their meet, don't they set their budget in December or start their fiscal in January 1st?
Well, we went to a meeting in, let's see, this is December, no, we went to a meeting in October
Yeah,
and nothing came of it.
I guess it's gonna be up to them, how much you decided. I gave you the figures of what
Yep.
Rockingham uses, so.
Yep. And that's what
Right.
we
And
presented.
we're still going to be subjected to the town of Rockingham charging the village.
It's under discussion, Matt. Nothing's been settled.
I'm quite aware of that, Amy.
Okay, but
I'm just letting people know, that we could be paying additional amounts. So what we're talking to Athens about may not be the actual number that needs to be had. So
well, we've come forth, we presented our initial position in good faith.
Mhm.
I don't think we could add to that amount at this point and call it negotiating in good faith.
it is, because we told them at that meeting that the town of Rockingham is discussing, thinking, that's been mentioned, however you want to say it, for charging for the apparatus to come out there. So they're aware of that. I'm not trying to do anything other than keep people updated to what is out there. If we set a rate with them and they agree on it, and then the town of Rockingham charges us more, well, we're in quite a fix. So hopefully they both can be resolved.
Yeah, and I think that we're, starting negotiations again is they want to know, they want to see the particulars. So we have the information that we have, and if we have new information, which is, the town of Rockingham wants some amount of money, that's part of how we come up with a final number. But
Right.
I don't think we haven't really done any negotiating yet. We made, we put an offer on the table. They got kind of grumpy, and then communication seems to have stopped. So
Right.
in my opinion, we're back in the starting blocks again.
Well, if we were to come to an agreement with Athens and that contract were in place, and the town subsequent to that decided to charge for use of the equipment, I'm not sure that that would apply to a contract that was already in force.
Well,
it's an interesting question.
Well, let's put on our thinking caps and get back together on the 19th. And
Are people okay with that? I know it's
Yep.
close to Christmas.
yep,
That's all right with everyone?
sure.
Okay. If there's no reason to meet, we won't meet, but let's establish it now. So that'll be a special meeting, December 19th, Monday at 7 PM.
because it
Okay,
really is,
everybody?
it's our regular scheduled meeting, so I don't know if it's really a special meeting, but
Well, we have gone to the one meeting a month. So I'm treating
Well-
anything that isn't following that formula as a special meeting.
So
And-
we've posted that we're meeting now once a month, so I think we have to call the special meeting.
It's easy
That's
to
fine.
do.
So just keep that one item on the agenda.
Okay.
So just for clarity, are we going to send any sort of a communication to Athens, as Rick had suggested, before that meeting? Or are we going to wait and discuss it then?
I would like to send a letter
Mhm.
saying the topic came up, our initial offer stands, and we haven't heard any counter offers from them. Does that
Well-
meet with your approval?
Well, I think it should say that I think Rick's point's well taken. It should explicitly say that we are not planning to renew the contract under the existing terms. I think that's the important.
Right, so they know at least that.
Yeah.
And
Agree.
I wouldn't say that our offer stands. They haven't come back with anything. They're, could be shopping around or paring down or whatever, but,
yeah, I think the offer should say is that, we've not heard back from you since our last meeting that we had. So we are assuming that you're not, that there's no forward movement on the proposed contract, and we need to let you know that we will not be renewing the existing contract, but are open to discussions if you want to reopen them, somewhere along those lines.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Okay. Carl, you've made notes of this and it will be reflected in your minutes, and I've made notes as well. Art, any other comments? One of the things that came up was whether medical calls, which were not covered in the initial agreement, would continue to Athens. And I have heard colloquially, informally, that they were looking at another provider for their medical calls, looking at Grafton. Would that change anything from your point of view?
They were looking at Grafton for all their calls. I don't know that Grafton has made any moves towards that or not. But one of the things that came out of one of the fire committee meetings was that they should be adding us to their town insurance
Mhm.
to absolve us while we're not totally unliable, but to give us a liability coverage in the event that something should go wrong out there in their town while we're providing coverage to them.
Yes.
That's another thing that if we renegotiate a contract should be stipulated in that contract.
Yeah,
Well,
that has to be
I think
stipulated.
it should be, we should be added immediately. Because they're still going out there, you know, when they're called, and yeah, we were told at the meeting that needed to be taken care of. So all they have to do is call their provider and add the Village of Saxons River on the policy.
I think that's a really good point.
It doesn't have to be in a contract now, but I think that needs to be taken care of.
I agree.
Who's
So
the
this isn't crystal clear to me. I don't have much experience with town insurance or coverage for a town that is also providing it. Does one of you have more experience and would give a second look at the letter that I write and make sure that the facts are clear and accurate?
It was totally new to me. I thought we were covered regardless. This was something that came out of the blue that we had no idea about.
I'm happy to look at it.
When the
I'm not- I
rescue
would-
came into being, I should say that Keene Dispatch just automatically started dispatching the rescue to Athens. And Athens never really asked or inquired. We just started going to Athens with the rescue as well.
If we subtracted rescue, what would the impact on us be? Let's try that first. And I know you're not rescue technically, Art.
You'd have to look
That's
at
Nick
those
Cushman.
numbers I supplied you.
They were a large proportion of the calls.
Yeah, the rescue is a
We got-
huge proportion of the calls.
Matt?
Couple things. One, I think we're having a special meeting to discuss this in depth. The other is, who's the chairperson of Athens?
David Bemis.
Do you have any contact info? You have an email that you could send me?
I do, and I can share that with you. He
Please
is-
send that to me. I'll contact him regarding the insurance. I mean, I'm glad you brought it up, Art. I had it in my notes, but it wasn't on my mind this evening, but,
David Bemis is our police chief.
oh yeah, well,
Oh.
he's Bells Falls Police Chief.
Yeah, he's not our police chief.
I'm sorry. Using the statement very loosely.
So send that to me. I will contact him and say, you know, immediately we need to be added to. It's nothing more than an email or a phone call. I do it
Right.
often with my business, so.
And the liability insurance is in the current contract. Number 8, liability insurance. In accordance with this agreement, the village agrees to procure and maintain it. Actually, the village might be us.
Yeah,
Probably. Okay,
And we would want Athens to cover it.
well, yeah, it's an additional because it's happening in their town.
Yeah, there's a bunch of talk about them not holding us liable for anything, but there isn't anything that's in here that really says about them having insurance.
Okay. Scott, I see that you're in on this meeting. Would you like to comment from your perspective? I know that you have a depth of knowledge about municipal matters that we're completely, well, I don't know about other people, that I'm completely lacking in.
Yeah, Matt's right. It's just getting an additional insured certificate. That's all you want. They can basically do that over the phone. It's not hard to do, or an
Okay.
email, either one. But it's good protection to have, at least if something ever did happen, you at least have some recourse.
Okay, thank you. Anything else before we leave the matter of the Athens fire contract? All right, moving on, the fire station feasibility study, RFP.
Yes. Are you looking for?
So Carl reminded me that any particulars that we want quoted in the feasibility study have to be sent to Scott by the 15th of December.
Mhm. Okay, this is the feasibility study that we discussed at the fire equipment committee meeting. Is that correct?
I think it's been discussed a number of places, most recently at the tri-board meeting. So this is a review of the 3 municipal fire department services with an effort to look at where efficiencies might be realized.
Mhm. Okay,
The template that Scott provided is the Triton RFP from Brattleboro, which deals with emergency services, not so much with fire services. Do you want this to be an individual response?
sure. I've already discussed it at one meeting, so
And you've provided feedback to Scott?
I believe so, but that's just me. I mean, if Art or Carl or anyone else has something in mind. But we basically went through it and took out the stuff that didn't seem relevant to what we were trying to do. Which is, you know, study all 3 departments and coverage and how much apparatus was needed. And so that's, I know there's a little bit more to it than that, but that's the gist of it. Scott could talk to that if you have questions about it.
Sure, Matt, I guess the only thing that I'll add for the board's information is we have been in touch with USDA about funding feasibility and asked them to consider it under a different program, which the village would be eligible for. My understanding is the rural business development section of USDA, the village is eligible for grants in that area. And the fire feasibility could potentially be funded through that source of funding. So the grants specialist that we talked to on the 30th was going to work and see if that was still in the realm of possibility and if there's still funding available. I've not heard back from him. I emailed him again today. So if I do hear back, I'll share it with Matt and make sure Matt can circulate it to the rest of the board if there is some extra funding that might be available for this. So just want to give the board that heads up.
Okay.
I just had one minor point. Looking through the boilerplate, there's something about where or what laws will apply to disputes under the contract. I think it was state of Washington. I think that may want to be changed.
Yeah, I think that was just a cleanup from the Triton stuff that Matt had talked about. We still haven't finalized. The scope was the important thing.
Yeah.
That was what we were really looking to get comments on.
Right. Now, I'm willing to follow Matt's, whatever Matt suggested as far as the scope. He's far more familiar with what needs to be done than I am.
Art, we have you here. Do you want to comment on this? I know you've been following the discussion and are routinely at the fire committee. Do you see this as a way forward for the complicated situation we find ourselves in?
I think we're just doing it one more time for the exercise of seeking grant money or something. I mean, it's been done and it's been done, and it's been done at least 3 times that I know of since we've been chief. And every time it's come back that we needed 3 departments in 3 places. But
The,
it wouldn't hurt to go again if we can get it funded and see what they come up with now. Times have definitely changed since COVID.
Well, I think the expense of the equipment is also driving this discussion. I mean,
Well, I'm sure
Mhm.
the town is paying for all of it now at this point. Apparatus wise.
right, and I think that this was, I don't know if it was Gary that suggested something like this, so that when we went to go look for money or grants to build the fire station, that this was already in place, that it would be a helpful tool.
Yes, that's correct. That's been like that for the last several years, is you have to have these studies done and they have to point in a direction in order to help get federal funding
Right.
Yeah,
or any funding.
yeah, it was required when we applied last year.
Yeah.
all right, anything else on the fire station feasibility study? Moving on then, the walk bike committee proposal. So this was a proposal from the basically from the Bellows Falls Community Bike Project to split the cost of a bike rack between Saxtons River and I believe it's Rockingham. It's a 6 bike rack. The total cost is $1,040. So if we split it, it would be $520 for Saxtons River. Was pointed out at the last meeting that there is a bicycle rack to the left of the inn. And I think in subsequent discussions, I found out that the rack location that the walking bike committee suggested is actually owned by Betsy or Betty Mudgett. So where the kiosk is in front of the Saxtons River Market is actually private property.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure about the sense of establishing a new bike rack on that property.
Mhm.
So that's where we are.
Okay,
Discussion.
I'd say we pass it this time. We have one there.
So that sounds like a move to pass on this opportunity, seconded by Rick Holloway. Is there any further discussion? Are you comfortable voting on that as a motion at this point? All right, it's been moved and seconded that we do nothing with the proposal from the Walk Bike Committee to install a 6 bike rack in Saxtons River. All those in favor signify with a show of hands. And those opposed? Okay, so the motion passes 4-1 with Carl voting against. Carl, you didn't disclose your point of view. Do you want to? Would it
Well-
move us forward, just in general, to know how you feel?
No, I don't think so. I was going to come back to this general subject when we talked about budget, so I think I'll hold off until then.
Okay,
And the fact that we don't have a place to put it does make a difference, but I'm not sure we should be opposed to doing this sort of thing as a general rule. And I think a bike rack next to the market would be a useful thing to have. We have a lot of bikers who come through town. They sit at that picnic table, they lean their bikes up against the rail, getting in the way of people walking up the ramp. So I think it would be a good thing to have.
Yeah, I understand your point, Carl. And I think for me, the determining factor to vote no was just because of it being private property, like that was all news to me, and
Mhm.
my original thought process had been that it was part of the market's property.
So,
That's still private property.
Yeah, exactly, but,
But the market was amenable.
right.
all right, I'll contact the committee and I'll copy Brandy Croson when I email. And we'll see if it goes anywhere else. All right, I see that for a moment, I saw that Alex had joined us. The 413 number. Could you identify yourself, please? We're only seeing a number and a phone call on the Zoom.
Yeah, that's me, Alex Barrett.
Oh, great. Would you like to speak now? I'm assuming that you meant to be part of public comment, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
Yes, I was just I've been in a forestry meeting in Massachusetts and I'm finally back into cell service.
With everyone's permission, I'll invite Alex Barrett to speak at this point. Go ahead, Alex.
Oh, well, thank you, everyone. I'm sorry to jump in out of turn in the agenda here. Amy and I have been chatting at different points, and I heard talking about bike paths and things, and I have been talking with Amy a little bit and proposing the idea of considering how to the continued problem of traffic zooming through the village. And I've had some different ideas over the years, one of which was to add some sinuosity to Main Street in some form. And another recent idea had been, after seeing it in Keene and Amherst and Brunswick, Maine, was the thought of adding speed humps, sort of large, big, flat structures that slow people down, whether they like to or not. And I don't know, I've now lived on Main Street for 6 years and just seen the speed with which people go by, and I'm deeply concerned about small children on bicycles and other things. And the police don't seem to help very much, and the radar signs are nice, but don't seem to have had an effect. And so I just wanted to put forth, it's a state highway, so I assume we would need to talk to state people. But yeah, I guess I'm here speaking on behalf of hopefully having some speed humps in the village at some point, or making Main Street not a straight raceway so people are not so inclined to go so fast.
Could you elaborate on what you mean by that or how it would be done?
You're talking about the
Yeah,
speed
so I mean,
humps?
The sinuosity.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of width on Main Street, and some of it is sporadically used by parking, and some of it is not really. And you know, you could put 5 cars abreast and drive them down Main Street, and so I think there's a lot of, you know, in front of the old Catholic church and then heading east, you know, there's just a lot of real estate there to imagine if you bumped the road out 20 feet north and just added a little bend to it. Maybe there's not the right place, but somewhere along there, you know, just make it a little less of a temptation to floor it because you see straight away ahead of you. You know, or, you know, I've just been, those folks came and did that lovely little sort of charrette planning session in front of the market this sort of early in the fall. And I was very taken with like, hey, how about we think outside of the box? Like, what are some ideas here? Like, one of them was, what about putting a rotary where Pleasant Street meets Main Street? You know, or just think outside the box, because the things that I've seen in the last 6 years have not deterred speeding in town.
Comments from the group? Go ahead, Matt.
I think we should table this for another scheduled meeting. This is very involved. I would make one comment is the parking that's on Main Street is the only municipal parking that we have for events. So removing parking, I would certainly be against, but understand the speeding on Main Street. But I do propose that we discuss this at a later date.
Anyone else?
I do think it's an important topic, and I share Alex's concerns, but, Matt, when you want to table it, are you thinking just maybe to the next meeting, or is there?
Just put it on the agenda. He's just making public comment. We don't have to jump into 2 hours of discussing it.
Okay, that's
currently.
reasonable.
Again, I'm not opposed to ideas other than removing parking on Main Street.
Yeah,
Okay.
Matt, I see your point and I agree with it. And Alex, Matt has.
So our original.
Oh, totally. I totally agree. I'd love to talk more about it. I'd love to volunteer my time and energies where I can. I'm sorry I've come in at sort of a bad time in this meeting.
So what do you think? January, or should we reserve January for what I know will be further budget discussions and postpone this to February or March?
Yeah, I would say let's get beyond the budget.
Okay.
cycle.
So Alex, I would suggest that we put this on the agenda for March. And I would urge everyone to look into it on their own. We do have written into the original specifications for the planning grant that we're finally coming to an end at this point, consideration of speeding through the village, and the UMass consulting team has not, except for taking public comment, has not really dealt with that, but they've assured me that there will be some traffic calming consideration in the final written report. So we have that to look forward to. I'll make one other comment, and that is that I talked to our highway supervisor, Andy Howarthy, and he cautioned me specifically about speed bumps. He's had experience where a snowplow during a storm caught the edge of the plow on the speed bump and totaled the municipal truck. So that's a real concern for him as the person who's responsible for snow plowing in our area. But I agree with all of you. It's a concern, and we would be horrified if anything happened. I mean, we're horrified as it is that people go speeding through Main Street, but if someone was hurt, that would be very concerning. So does March sound all right to people? We also have our annual meeting probably in March, April, I guess.
April.
Carl, remind me, is it in April?
It's in April. The date in the bylaws is the second Monday in April, which is April 10th, which is also the day after Easter. So we may want to take that into consideration.
Okay, so I'm going to suggest the March meeting, and this might be something to gather comments on at town meeting as well under other business. Anything further on the public comment that Alex Barrett has brought to us? All right, we are moving on to the village 2023-2024 budget. And the two items that are listed there are worksheets and the new rescue truck proposal. I assume, Matt, that you wanted to discuss your list of fire equipment as well? Okay. So Matt, I'm sorry, Carl, the floor is yours. And would you like me to make you the host so you can share?
Yeah, maybe I'm going to need to. So what I'd like to talk about is the village general fund budget, because I see Rob has just joined us. I'm still working on data from the wastewater treatment plant, which is a less difficult process. But okay, now how do I share?
So you've been made a co-host. There should be a green box on my computer. It's the bottom of the screen. It says
Yep.
share screen.
Okay,
And
so
Rob, before we get Carl launched, do you have specific comments that you came prepared to make? No. Okay, great. Just wanted to make sure I knew where we were. Okay, Carl, back to you.
okay, so you're seeing my screen now, aren't you?
Yes. We're
And,
seeing the historical budget data, general account.
Right there, okay. I have to, jeez.
If you would turn off your
I'm not.
markers, that would be great. It's right under table design.
Pardon?
If you would turn off the markers for the delineation, it's a little gray box under table design. Right at the top of the screen.
Okay, I'm not seeing that.
So do you see the label that says table design?
No, let me stop sharing for a second. And let me just,
It's not fatal. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have distracted you. Let's just go back to your screen.
I just want to get rid of all these other documents so they don't show up on the screen. Okay. So. Okay, so you see his historic budget data? Is that appearing on the screen?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay, so what is it moving up and down?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, I've got so much junk here, I can't follow what I'm saying. So a couple of points I want to make. First, I sent this to everybody so that as we're thinking about the amounts we want to put on the budget for next year, we'll have some idea of what the past budget and actual amounts were, which I think we'll find a little bit helpful. I would like to come back and talk about the specific worksheets or the specifics for this budget for the next year in January, if you don't think that's too soon, and assuming that Sarah can get the data we need from her, have some time to discuss it in January and go back again, revisit it in February and finalize it. Then that gives us plenty of time to get all of our ducks in a row and make sure that our numbers agree with Sarah's numbers, and get all of the reports printed for the annual meeting. So I just wanted to introduce that historical data to you, and to point out that you may remember that there was a bit of difficulty, shall we say, that Peter Golick pointed out, that our numbers on the budget and Sarah's numbers on the treasurer's report did not always agree. And I would like to make sure that that doesn't happen again. And part of that's, my fault for not following up. We're not having the numbers early enough to make sure that we didn't have that difficulty. That's why I want to get started now, since we only have 3 more meetings before the annual meeting, or before the budget needs to be set. So there were some discrepancies between those 2 reports in the annual report last year, and also a couple of places where, as we were discussing where to put the fire station development money, the $20,000 a year that we were setting aside, we had the discrepancy between what was in one report and what was in the other, which I picked up on going back through the old report. So again, we want to make sure that everything is cleared in order, and that there's nothing ambiguous. The other thing that I would like to consider is whether or not these categories that we have, these items are sufficient, or whether we should look at expanding the worksheet. And I'm going to stop sharing for a moment and try to find another document. Okay. Okay, so what I think would be useful to do is first in our budget worksheets and what we publish, I think we should include not just the things that we're spending money on, but where the money's coming from. So so far we look at the the cash on hand and the amount to be raised from taxes. But if we're looking at things like the fire service contract, the money that comes in from that doesn't really appear anyplace in the budget that I can find. It just sort of floats around and we're not really following it. We may be looking at ARPA money to pay for some of the projects that we have. I think that we should put that in as a separate income source so that it's transparent where we're paying for these things. And so it doesn't look like we're going to spend, for example, $80,000 for a new vehicle and have that come out of the fire department budget of $20,000.
That's a good point.
It's a nice trick if you can do it, but you know, not really kosher. So I think it would just be better transparency and better accounting practice. Not that I know accounting practices. If we added something like this to the worksheet. The other thing is, and I was thinking specifically of what Matt was saying about a new vehicle. We might want to add, at least for the coming year, a line item for the capital equipment that we think we need to get for the fire department. And Matt, you'd be better placed to say whether this is appropriate or not. But again, that would be a way that we could break out the source of the money and what the expense was for the village to vote on. A second thing that I think we might want to consider is a category that I've sort of loosely lumped into community development. And in the past year, there have been a number of proposals that have come to us where we said, well, yeah, but where's the money going to come from? For example, the seed money for the planning grant for 37 Main, or $500 for a bike rack by the market. And I think we might need to consider, and I don't want to make this decision now, but we should think about it for January. Do we want to be setting money aside for things that are not just the nuts and bolts of keeping the village running, but for things like grant funds or bike racks or other, ideas that might be nice that we have sort of looked on as frills that are not appropriate for the village to be paying for. And I think we should have a discussion about what, if anything, along that line we ought to be setting aside money for. I specifically think that it would be a good idea to have a reserve that we can tap for planning grant opportunities that might come around, because they show up without a lot of warning, so we don't have time to put them in the budget. And they tend to be a fair amount of money. Well, I consider $500 or $1,000 a fair amount of money. And they don't obviously fit into one of our other funds. A feasibility study for a fire department, we have fire department funds set aside for that, but planning grant, we don't have a separate fund set aside for that, and I'm thinking maybe we should. So those are a couple of things that I think we should talk about come January. I'll just plant those seeds for you. And if anybody wants me to just delete anything from here or add anything to this document, you can go ahead and I can do that, and then I will forward it on to all of you to have to look at for January.
Okay, Carl, comments from the group? Do we need to look at the document, Carl?
You need to look at the document. Are you not seeing it?
I am seeing it. I'm wondering if we can go back to the screen of faces.
If we can go back to what screen?
If we can stop sharing so that I can see
Oh, sure.
the faces better. Thank you.
Okay.
Rob, I know you joined us. Comments from your perspective as one of the people that manages quite a large stream of our revenue?
No, I mean, has he gone up with the wastewater budget, or is that gonna be next
No,
month?
not yet.
I haven't
Okay.
got the wastewater budget worked out yet. I ran out of time before the meeting.
Okay, no problem.
That'll be coming out to you in the next few days.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
I
No, I
sort
don't
of
see,
rely
I
on-
don't see any
I
questions.
sort of rely on you for the wastewater budget anyway.
Yeah,
We
excellent. Go up, then up by 20% in each category.
That's it, huh?
And I'll pass your email on to all the sewer users. How's
Yeah,
that?
exactly.
Put that in
Excellent.
the bill.
I'm included in one of those, so that's good. I'll pay my fair share.
Let you pick up everybody else's 20% too, if you'd like.
Hey, easy now.
Okay, so in terms of scheduling, I'd like to come back and do a first run at the budget numbers in January.
Looks to me like that meeting would be January 9th. January 2nd follows immediately on New Year's Day. So I
Okay.
think that is an official holiday.
Okay,
It is.
Does that work for everyone?
Yep.
The ninth?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fine.
Art, let me ask you, does that give you time to get numbers for fire department budget together?
It should,
Okay,
but if they're looking at your budget figures, I guess I would like an itemized expenditure list for my accounts, because it seems like we're running a little thin for this time of year.
itemized expenditures.
so that's Sarah.
I'll
I think.
talk to Sarah about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's ill
we're-
tonight, so we don't have her present, but I know that she is also concerned, as Carl is, that she has figures and accounts ready as soon as possible when we hit January.
Yeah, it almost looks like they're taking the fire station fuel out of the fire department budget instead of the building budget. Seems like my expenses are running quite high for this time of year.
So are there actual expenses reflected in this report, Carl? Current expenses for this year?
No, I don't have that information yet.
Yeah, I don't think you're seeing what's happening now, Art.
No, that would have to come from Sarah.
Yeah. The last I asked about her computer, there were problems. So I suspect that that's why we're not seeing the progress that we want to see. But I'll carry this message to her.
Are there some other specific expenses that you're concerned about?
No, because I don't see them on a regular basis, so I don't know what is getting attributed to the fire department budget.
Okay. We might be able to tell some of that from the warrants. They should specify what accounts are being charged, don't they?
They specify in a general way, I would say. Ellen, you want to contradict me on that? You're the person with hands on and eyes on that information. I think a lot depends on the treasurer's understanding of the accounts and where they draw from.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just put who the bill references. It's like the bill come to Saxon River, but what it's for.
okay. So you'd like to know, Art, everything that's been charged to the fire department budget?
Yes, that's correct. Everything's been taken out in the fire department budget.
Yeah, but that's not I don't think that's a question for the annual report, Carl. I think that's a question for current fiscal management from our treasurer.
Right, but I need to talk to Sarah about some other issues anyway, so I will bring.
Sure,
put
that'd be
that in-
great.
Put that in the list.
So, Art, you mentioned something about fuel. What do we have for accounts? We have a budget for the fire department,
Right, and it should have a budget for the building,
building as in,
power, fuel, phone.
Utilities.
Well, heating oil would, well, are you talking about heating or are you talking about
heating.
gasoline?
Yeah, heating oil. It doesn't, I mean, it very well could have, but I don't believe I've had any major expenses this year. I've been very careful considering how much fuel went up this past year. It just seems like I'm way into my budget a lot further than I should be.
Hmm.
But I haven't had an itemized statement for, I don't think, for 2 years.
So some of this, I think, reflects changeover from one treasurer to another. And I would urge you, Art, to reach out to Sarah directly, maybe with something that you were used to receiving previously and a request to get the same kind of information now. I know that she continues to be extraordinarily busy with the sale of houses. I pictured the work of a treasurer as paying bills and making deposits, but apparently when houses sell, there's a great deal more work that is generated. So she's in touch with lawyers and mortgages and brokers. But that's not to say that what you're asking for is irrelevant or unimportant in the least. Just trying to give a little picture of the background for what's happening now.
Yeah, I understand that. It used to be that every month when you had a meeting that the treasurer supplied a statement for every department so that you had a running account of where the money was going.
Wow.
And what was remaining.
Hmm.
So I'm just trying to wrap my head around probably a simplistic thing, Art, but so I've written down building and, the fire department, and you're talking about fuel for the building. Don't we just have one budget for the fire department?
No, the
have a-
building has always been separate from the fire department. If
We
you
have
want to
a-
wrap the two together, seeing as how nobody really uses it anymore except the fire department, that's fine, but you'll have to reflect that and you'll see a significant increase in the fire department budget.
Right. Okay, so
Carl?
we should review that when we're talking about budgets. But prior to that, should be able to spit something out regarding this. Yeah, it'd be pretty easy to, and it has happened in the past with different treasurers until they get up to speed, that something could be charged to one area that it shouldn't be charged to.
I just want to point out that we have a separate line item in the budget for heat, which is for that building. So all the heating bills should be charged to that and not to arts.
Well, you have it for insurance, we have it for phone, it's all line itemed.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
when a bill comes in and it's for fuel, it should be fuel for coming out of the heat budget, not the
right.
fire
Not
department.
coming out of, yeah. not coming
Okay,
out of-
yep. Got it.
All right, I'd like to make one comment with your proposal for a fund that might pay for things like municipal planning or bike racks, Carl. I don't think this is the year to float that proposal. When our sewer bill goes up by a few dollars, I inevitably hear from people in town. That's not feedback that they want to make in an open meeting, but I think more than you might expect in a fairly prosperous village, at least taking how the USDA views us as one point of view, there are people who are very concerned about stretching their funds to cover what we have. So a nice to have fund, I think this is not the year for it. I think we do have the ARPA funds, but that's a one-off. You know, I don't see those coming back in another year. That's my take. And you've asked us to consider this in January. So I will make that point again, but I wanted to get my 2 cents in now.
I think, yeah.
Matt, you have the floor, and then I'll return it to Carl.
I would say that would be something that just brought up at the annual meeting. I mean, we can add it in there if people want it, or.
Well, anything we bring up at the annual meeting has to be warned ahead. So be thinking about the wording that you'd like to see.
Okay.
Carl.
I'm just going to say that we can decide that we're just not going to do anything like that. You know, we're not going to pay for things like bike racks or planning grants or stuff like this, or that we're going to take it out of capital reserve, or, you know, I don't know, but I think we should have the discussion.
Okay.
I think now is not the time. I think January is the time for that.
All right. Other comments on the budget worksheets? Then I think we're ready for Matt's new rescue truck proposal and his list of fire equipment. I can share that list, or you can, Matt. Do you have it on your computer?
No, I have it right in front of me.
So why don't I make you the co-host and you can share it? Okay. You are now the co-host, Matt.
Yeah, where's that going to get me?
So the little green button in the middle of the screen down at the bottom in the tray, at least that's where it is on mine, is a share button. As long as you have the document open on your desktop somewhere,
No,
you can share
no,
anything.
because I'm not on my computer. This is Kelly's, so I can't.
Okay, let me see if I can get it open.
I can't do anything with it. Don't show. Now I've done something. How do I get rid of this thing?
Hold on a second here. Okay, it is exactly what I thought it was. So let's go back to Zoom and share it. Hold on. You see that now?
It's a little too big. Yep. We all ready?
Go ahead, Matt.
This kind of says a lot here. There's been a lot of talk of replacement of the rescue truck that the Village of Saxtons River owns. It's a 2-wheel drive. It's older, needs to be replaced. The town of Rockingham, with the sharing of purchasing equipment, has it on a list. grant money has been looked at. Doesn't seem like it's going to be coming through. So my proposal is that we use our ARPA money to purchase a new chassis, which is the main body and drivetrain of the vehicle, which you can see is listed for $75,000. The body that's on the back of it is going to be taken off and reattached to the new chassis. It'll be upgraded, it'll be painted, any wear and tear repaired. The lights are upgraded to LED. So you've got a couple of numbers there, 75,000 and then 35,000 for the remount. And then, you know, I had because we have this money and I feel it needs, feel strongly it needs to be used in the village of Saxtons River for this purpose. Art has listed out other items that would be needed, that are needed for upgrades. And he had a note on the, I'll call them scuba. It's the breathing apparatus packs that the firefighters use when they enter buildings. And his note says they've been pursuing grants for these for 7 years and have never been awarded one. So I would say that'd be a great place to put this money. And then he has other rechargeable hand lights, portable radios, portable scene lights. Of course, it puts us over the amount that we have in the ARPA funds, which is something that we might want to start adding to the fire department budget, some at a time, so that we get ourselves, get the fire department up to speed and using the equipment that they need. Art, do you have anything to add to that?
No, that's pretty much it. That body would be refurbished so that it would be like a new body going on the back of a new truck.
And that that chassis is a 4-wheel drive.
Yes,
And is it a crew cab?
it would be a 4-door crew cab. It should be seating for 4 in it.
Okay, and that's a F-350 or 450?
I originally expect a 450, but it looks like that might be too tall. So I believe we can get a 350 at a 12,000 GVW. And Walt just weighed the old truck today and it comes in just under 10. So 12,000 should carry it and get us in the door.
Okay, and for those of you who don't know, the decrepit fire department where they house the truck, there's no room to go up any higher with a door opening, so he's needing to keep it so you can get it in the door after you purchase it.
And just to clarify, that truck belongs to the fire department. We paid for that out of our funds. Occasionally a newer one comes along, used one that fits in our station. So we try to be ready to buy that if we have to. So, but it would be nice to have a new one. It would last for probably a good 20 years.
So any questions?
Just to point out, we do not have the full amount of ARPA funds available. We moved to spend those on the ESO software. So we need an up-to-date accounting of what is actually available.
Mm-hmm.
Carl, go ahead.
Muted.
Carl, you're muted.
Sorry, I'm just curious, if you were to buy a new truck instead of replacing the body on a new chassis, how much would that be?
What I've seen so far and shopping around, they're about $200,000
Okay,
and up.
Right. And could take a while to get.
Yep.
We kind of went down this route because at the fire equipment committee meetings discussing purchase of new fire trucks, they're talking a year or a year and a half or even longer to get a new engine. So, if you were to purchase one all done already set up as this truck, it's probably going to take it could take a year to get the truck. Whereas this would be saving us money and doing it quicker with the purchase of the chassis and then just remounting the existing body after upgrades on the new chassis.
So it would have to, I'm sorry, Rick.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ellen.
To fund it, the thought process is to use ARPA money.
That
and
is
then
correct.
And then
Yeah.
subsequently have to go with taxes or with,
No, just use whatever, my proposal is to use whatever money is remaining of the ARPA money is to use it on this list that you see, starting with the chassis and the remount of the body.
okay. Because I think it's time that we do this because I mean, based upon the information that Art has provided, and I feel strongly that it's something that we need to address.
So my question was going to be, Art, is the scuba gear isn't attached to the truck or the chassis in any way. That's standalone equipment.
It's mounted in all of the apparatus. You're supposed to have SCBA for every seat in the apparatus.
Yeah. So, but I guess my question is more, is it's not physically attached to the truck? Like
Right,
we,
but if
Is
you're
it
going
an operational part of the truck?
yeah.
No.
Like, I guess, so I guess, my question is kind of getting towards not knowing what we have for ARPA funds. If we have to cut like a large expense, is that one that we could like do less, or, is it part of the rebuild that we couldn't, it would not make sense to rebuild the truck if we didn't have the funds to buy the scuba.
No, that is a separate part. I put that in there because we're so far behind.
Yep.
That apparatus is outdated. It meets NFPA only because we have it tested every year, but it is not a current standard. You couldn't buy that apparatus today.
Yeah.
You
No,
would
I know,
have
I've
to
heard.
buy newer stuff.
I think I've heard you talk about this for several years about trying to get it replaced and,
And is SCBA breathing apparatus? Art?
That's correct. As a matter of fact, the apparatus we're using now is actually hand-me-downs from Dulles Falls when they got a grant a few years ago to replace theirs.
I believe the acronym, Amy, is self-contained breathing apparatus.
There we go.
Yeah,
Thank you.
So if you just envision going scuba diving with
without the water.
right. I mean, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at, well, it's one smaller tank, but for those not knowing really what we're talking about, that's a full face mask and harness.
Tank and
Yeah, with the tank. Yeah.
So
That
I'm
is
still not
breathing.
clear. Are we looking at a rescue truck that is part of the fire department equipment? Or are we looking at a rescue truck that is part of our emergency medical response?
It's both. It's shared by both. Primarily, we got it as a support unit years ago. And when the rescue came on board, we just started putting rescue equipment on it so that they'd have a way to transport that equipment to the scene.
So is it typically the equipment that goes to, let's say, a medical emergency? I've fallen and I
Yeah,
can't get up?
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
as well as support for the firefighters.
It's a utility fire apparatus truck, forestry truck. We used it just the other night to go out and clear the roads. We keep chainsaws on it, generator, as well as the emergency medical gear. it's generally far easier to get something that size up a driveway than a full-size fire engine.
Okay.
And it would be owned by the Village of Saxons River.
So what's the next step?
I think we put this on the agenda for the next meeting. This is a proposal step. I personally don't feel ready to vote on it without having a proposal that's been circulated in town that's, listed and we can review it. I'm also thinking, I think I didn't understand when Matt asked to have this on, that his proposal was to pay for everything with the ARPA funds. And I would like to go back and review our public comments on how to use the ARPA funds originally. I understand, Matt, that this is your priority, but it might not be the priority of the full board as a group.
I'd like to
Um,
know what
well-
the ARPA funds are, what we have left.
Okay, so I'll put that on as well. My recollection is the ESO software took a big bite out of it.
A big
But-
bite. It was less than that, $3,000.
Great. Our recollections are different. I'll make sure we have the numbers for the next meeting.
Well, just as a point of clarification, Amy, I've mentioned this to you, I think, on 2 different occasions.
Yeah, well, you give me the wording for the agenda so that I can put on expenditure of ARPA funds and we're good. But I don't like the feeling that anybody who reads the agenda is mystified by where these things come from. And because we went through that public process on how to spend the ARPA projects, I think it's important that we review that before we make decisions. You can counteract that argument with your own, but that's
So
my
what is
sense
it,
as the
what
chair.
is it you're proposing to do?
Put this
we-
on the
we can have a
agenda for
town-
the next meeting
So
with
put
the
it on-
statement that it would be an expenditure of ARPA funds.
Okay, do I need to send that to you or will you that?
No, we're discussing it now. The consensus will show in the minutes and it'll be on the agenda unless there's other discussion.
Okay. And what meeting, what date will that be?
Would you like this on the January meeting? Carl, this ties in tightly with the budget discussion.
Yeah, oh yeah, let's put it on in January.
Is that January 9th?
Yep,
Art, I'll need written proposals before then.
should we ask Nick Cushman to attend that meeting as well?
I would, just if there's any rescue questions, they can be directed to him.
So on the meeting of October 24th, we approved the ESO software for $2,585.
Right.
Thank you. Okay,
Amy,
further discussion. Carl,
question for clarification to make sure I get it in the minutes. What is it that you are proposing to look at prior to our discussion at the next meeting? The public comment on how ARPA funds should be expended?
the ARPA, the discussion in Rockingham of how to spend the ARPA funds. If you recall, at the end of that process, we look specifically at each municipality. So there is feedback specific to Saxtons River.
Well, I'm a little confused by that. So we are been directed by the town of Rockingham or by a,
No, we had an open process,
right,
well advertised throughout Rockingham, Bellows Falls, and Saxtons River to
right,
look at how the ARPA funds would be spent. The final meeting of that process involved discussions and sticker voting municipality by municipality for how to spend the funds. That was not a trustee meeting, that was public commentary.
right.
We understand that the responsibility ends with the trustees, But having gone through the public process, I would at least like to review those comments before we make a decision on how to spend ARPA funds.
With all due respect, Amy, I think that's. Jeez. Okay,
Duly noted, Matt. Anyone else?
my goodness.
Can you, can you forward, a summary of what the, priorities were for Saxtons River, prior to the meeting?
Yep.
Yeah, it was money to be spent in Bellows Falls.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, we have finished with the rescue truck proposal. And I think we are ready to move on to committee reports and updates. Municipal planning grant for 37 Main Street. The final meeting will be December 15th. This is a reporting meeting. Certainly people are welcome to come and ask questions, and there will be note takers to capture any questions or information, but this is not meant as a working session as much as the previous meetings were. The meeting will be live streamed. Will be December 15th at 6:30 p.m. at Main Street Arts upstairs in the theater, but Fact TV is live streaming it as well. The three proposals will be elucidated, and a key proposal will be outlined based on the comments that people made at the last meeting. If you remember, people were asked to come up with pros and cons, and all of that information was collated. The final product will be a written report, including all of the information collected during the process, which will be given to the village trustees later in December. Questions on the municipal planning grant? Carl?
Yeah, so that final report will include whatever they glean at that meeting on the 15th.
Yes, as well as all of the information collected through the process. So for example, you heard Alex Barrett say that during the tabling in front of the market and the post office, he made comments about the streetscape. Those comments would be included, probably not identified as by Alex Barrett, but those comments will be included in that final written report. So all of the data collection is still available to us. Is there a follow-up to that question?
Nope.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, the fire station. Art, here we have you. You already asked about how things were being debited from the different accounts. Are there other issues you want to bring to us with the fire station?
Yeah, other than it's fallen down, it has been for years.
Okay.
Definitely need a new one.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, a wastewater treatment plant. And since Rob had nothing, oh, there he is. Go ahead, Rob.
No, I'm all set. Nothing report with wastewater. I'll be waiting for Carl's reports to comment on those for next meeting.
Okay, great. Update on sidewalk parking. I talked with 2 residents about trucks parked on the sidewalk, and as far as I can tell, the problem has been alleviated. I also reached out to a number of people around winter parking. I was prompted by a resident and sent emails, and I think we're moving along in both of those cases. Any questions? Okay. Is that a hand, Carl?
Nope.
Was that a hand? Rob? No? Okay. Fire committee. Update from you, either of you, Art or Matt, on fire committee? I think we've discussed the feasibility study. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay. Minutes for approval from November 7th. Everyone has had a chance to read and review the minutes. Is there a motion for approval? Carl, you move to approve them, Carl?
Yes, I move to approve the minutes of the November meeting.
Okay, is there a second to that motion? Is there a second to the motion to approve the minutes? Thank you, Rick. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of November 2nd. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll vote on the motion. All in favor, show of hands. It's unanimous. Thank you. Warrants and bills for approval. Ellen, do you want to share that warrant?
Sure.
I will give you that power. Mouse is cranky tonight. I'm sorry about that. Okay. Ellen is the co-host.
Woo-hoo. All right, share. Right. Everyone can see okay?
Looks good.
Okay. So a couple of things. I emailed people about, this is through Google. It's a Google Sheet. And I wanted to share this with everyone so that you have access to it 24/7. So if you've seen an invite from me for this, please feel free to accept it. I like the transparency of it and being able to share it with everyone. So does anybody have any questions about it? Just looking at it right now that I could answer.
So just a comment, this made answering Carl's question about Abiyadi monuments and the payment in August very easy. I went to this one site. Ellen has it set up so that you can review, you can see along the bottom, all of the folders are there. I mean, it is exactly as she said, transparent, easy to use, everything in one place. I like this so much. I really do like hard copy. I like having a folder so I can pull things out and go through them. But I'm tempted to forget about it because this is so elegant.
Well, it's just, it's backed up through my account, through my Gmail account, but we all have access to it. And just also to show you guys, see down here, I don't know if you can see where I'm moving my cursor down at the bottom. Each warrant has its own tab. So if you wanted to go backwards and look at previous warrants, you certainly can.
Do we have the power to edit the warrants?
You do.
We shouldn't, I don't think.
Actually, no, you know what? You do, but I don't think I gave everybody that option. I think I only gave it to Sarah and myself and maybe you.
Okay. I'm just concerned that it, we want the responsibility of keeping these accurate to be in your hands.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Sarah reminds me that she is not a trustee. She is elected, she is separate and unique. So I think it might be good to keep that separation. I'm open to other suggestions, but it seems to me that Sarah should not be editing these warrants.
So if you can click the share button, Ellen. Go over and click share. Then it should show you the people that, and so.
Oh yeah, that's right. Thanks.
Now you can change anybody, everybody you have there that's an editor probably should be a viewer if we don't want.
All right, I'm taking all your responsibilities away, folks.
Great. Perfect.
Amy, do you want to still be?
Yes, I do, because I think I'm your backup. If you happen to go to Hawaii again, I'd be delighted to update it here so that you've got everything ready for you when you come back.
Okay.
You should do it to her village account and not her personal account like you had it there. It's my opinion anyways.
You are 100% right. I do have it here. You can see
Yep.
at the chair, but I can
Yep.
remove her personal.
Perfect.
Well, you can leave her personal as a viewer, right? And then make the editor the,
Great.
There we go. Okay.
Now, do you have
So-
do you have the rest of us, wastewater and fire?
You
On
mean,
that?
as viewers, I certainly can.
Okay, that would be great.
Yeah, and then, so the columns here, you know, it's a pay to, who's it for, this is as far as I break it down. Because
Yep.
I'm not an accountant and I don't know balance sheets and going into what. So at least you can see who it's for, who
Right.
received the bill, the amount, the date I entered it, the date it's due, if there is a due date, invoice number, and any kind of notes I've put onto it. And then I think Art and Rob, you saw recently an email from me where I CC'd you guys when I was, because I'm scanning the invoices now and emailing them to Sarah as opposed to dropping them off. Because then there's a record. So I'm trying to do that whenever you guys submit something to me that's new, that I'll CC you when I forward the invoice to Sarah if you want to just have your own copy, electronic copy.
Good.
Great. You're scanning the invoices now
I am,
and emailing it to Sarah.
yes.
So what happens to the invoices I leave at the station? Do you collect those as well?
Yeah, and I apologize, I did not get to the station recently. And I wanted to talk to you about that because I didn't know if maybe there was another way that we could go about doing it.
I can check. I think I have the capability of scanning them and emailing them.
And I apologize, everyone. If you have an iPhone, scan
No.
your doc, anything in, and then email
Yeah, some computers do it.
it. And Art, all I have is your, A62 email address. Is that okay?
That, you don't have my phone number?
Well, this is just for the spreadsheet for the warrant to email to you.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay. And then Rob, I am doing at the Rock BF.
Sure, that'll work. I'll get it.
Okay, so when you guys, you're gonna see an email now from me. And then just accept it. Now you will be a viewer as well.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think I already was a viewer on that. You had me listed before.
Okay. Yeah, I had sent it out months ago as well.
Yeah.
And then I resent it out again just recently,
Yeah.
but
And I tried to mimic it for the fire department stuff and sent it to you. I don't remember as I ever got a response or if it even worked, because I had like an old Excel platform that I
Oh.
had copied over.
how
So I
recently
could
was
edit
that?
my own and send it to you.
Too, and I can just copy and paste it. So
Yes.
I'm sorry if I overlooked that. Yeah, just invoices here.
Yeah, that was something that just came out of the blue. I found that in my spam folder.
Oh, was that the one that I took care of today? There was something for the fire department. Oh, no, that was
That
coded.
it was for the rescue.
For rescue? Not the ESO solutions, is it? We can talk more about that if you like.
Yeah, that was I believe that was the $2,500 that Rick had looked up and mentioned, but you already paid for that, correct? Last month?
Oh, let me check last month. Oh, actually, last month I don't have, because then I was out and Amy was taking care of it for me. So we'll
Uh,
look at something.
yeah, I can get that up. What am I looking for, Art?
It was the ESO bill for the rescue for EHR.
I'm gonna have to look for it some other time. So much of my real estate is taken up with, wait a minute, maybe I can get it over here.
Whoops.
So while Amy's looking that up, I would just like to reiterate how much I enjoyed last night in the village. Main Street Arts and the wonderful show that they, or well, not show, but event that they put on.
Okay, I'm gonna take back the host
sure.
from Ellen. If you could stop sharing, Ellen.
Yep.
And here is the November warrant. So
It's
I'm-
line 22.
ESO, Rescue Squad Report Software, ARPA, 2585. Is that what you're referring to? Or
I
are you
believe
referring to
that's-
the second bill, Art?
Pardon me?
There was a second bill, I think, a very small one, like $77. Is that the one you're referring to, or is it?
No, this was the one I was referring
Okay.
to.
So
I'm
we-
pretty sure that's the one. I just found it in my spam folder last week and forwarded it to you and Nick and Ellen, I believe. So it's already been taken care of then.
Yep. We submitted it, I submitted it to Sarah at the end of October and for payment.
Great.
And we reviewed it and approved it in the meeting on November 5th. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will move to approve Ellen's warrant of tonight's date, December 5th. Is there a second to that motion? Rick seconds the motion. It's been moved and approved, moved and seconded to approve the warrants for December 5th. All in favor, show with hands. And it's unanimous. Great. Okay, we are up to other business.
Amy,
Yes, go ahead, Carl.
you did the trouble of going in and looking at it. Can you give me the total on that warrant?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, it was.
Ellen, can you do it?
Yep, $12,728.84.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, that was very sloppy of me. Thanks for calling us on that, Carl. Is there other business for discussion tonight? Hearing none, we have quite a list of items for next meeting, but is there anything else that's coming to mind? We will be meeting in January on the 9th. That'll be a big night for budget. And I'd have to comb through all these chicken scribblings to find out what else we agreed to discuss. I assume there is no need for an executive session. Seeing none, I think we're ready for a move to adjourn. All in favor? Thanks, everyone. Good
Night.
night.
Right.